So one of the things that I've realized with my work, but it's really hard to do. It's like super hard to do, is that you have to have a quiet confidence. Now, um, I want you to think about this, right? So we do things in academic life where people really don't understand what we're actually doing. We're sitting there and we're thinking of ideas. And if you looked at our work, it really doesn't look like work with a lot of standards. We're sitting there on a seat often. Maybe some of us stand, but most of us, or some of us lay down, but many of us just sit on a seat. And sometimes we write, sometimes we look at numbers, but often it's just thinking about ideas, and it's not necessarily all the time that we are thinking about ideas. It's not necessarily all the time that we're writing, and it's really hard to sort of figure out what the heck we're doing. Now, there is a push in the last few years, in the last probably 20, 30 years, perhaps it was longer than that, but there's a push towards getting people to do, just quantifying and trying to make sense of this. I think it's becoming much more clearer in the last decade, maybe 2 decades, of quantifying what it looks like to actually be working, or what is a metrics, how do we measure what we're actually doing, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily make sense to, and there's good reason for that, right? If somebody is laying around on their couch, you probably don't want to pay them, and they're doing absolutely nothing, you probably don't want to pay them. But there is a really sort of tricky thing, is what does it look like to actually do work, and how do we understand work? Now, my field, strategy, right, or I'm probably more broadly organizational theory, or just, I think about work. I think about things related to various different degrees of work or organizations. And one of the things that we sort of arrive upon um, is that it's really hard to measure what we mean by performance, by work, by outcomes. It's extremely hard to measure this, and there's all sorts of ways that we can academically try to capture, the measurement of working, and we try to capture those things. But when you put your finger on it and you see this, whether it is a survey, you ask people, "Are you working right now?" Or you quantify the number of keystrokes that they type on a typewriter. When you get down to it, you realize that all of those ways of measuring something is pathetic. Like, they're not good, and you can easily tease them apart. Now, would you say, to give you a quantifiable thing, let's say somebody sits on their couch and thinks and thinks and thinks, and they're out in the woods someplace, and they're a mathematician. And at year 25 of thinking and thinking and thinking, they come up with a solution to the world's hardest problem that is not possible to crack, or wasn't possibly to crack. Would you say that that person was unproductive in those 25 years? Um, and that's a philosophically a challenging question to say, because this person actually came up with something unique and different. Now, there is a correlation, right? I'm not saying, like, um, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. There is a correlation between getting up and working and putting in effort every day and laying around. But what it looks like, how we come to understand what work is, what productivity is not clear. And it's far from clear in any sort of way. There's all sorts of ways that you could break it down in terms of cycle times, in terms of ways to measure, and none of them are perfect. And so, what we have to come down to and think about, you know, and we have, so coming back to where I was at, is we are measured, we're compared, we get paid on various different ways of what it means to do academic work, right? And we get paid. That's how we get paid, is through being productive. And what I've realized is that no matter what I do, I'm never going to be perceived productive, right? Because the work that I do tends to take a long time, and that's okay. It tends to be a bit of a struggle, and that's okay. And I've come down to admitting and thinking about I just have to have quiet confidence. When I'm comparing myself to others, when I'm comparing to other people that might be perceived as more productive than me, I realize that we're comparing apples to oranges, and it's not necessarily an easy thing to think about. And the only thing that I can say is I'm as good as you are, and that's okay. And now the world might not perceive that. They might not understand that you're as good as anybody else, and they're as good as you. But you come to terms with this, and you realize that, you know what? I'm just good who I am. And when you come have this quiet confidence, now I'm going to be the first to admit it's hard to work on that quiet confidence, and it's hard to work on that deep down inside. I'm just as insecure as everybody else, and I feel this insecurity, but I'm working on it. I'm working on this quiet confidence where, you know what, I don't need to play with how the rest of the world kind of works, and I could just walk kindly and softly and keep doing my work, and nobody will recognize that, and that's okay, right? And that's where you have this quiet confidence, where you know deep down inside you're doing the things that you should be doing, you're taking those steps forward, and you're working hard. And that's where you need to just simply say, I'm doing my best, try your best, and I'm working. And yes, it's hard. Yes, the outcomes don't happen that often. But I have to have the quiet confidence to know I'm doing the right thing. And as I do this and I take these steps forward, I ignore the rest of the world. What is going on around me? What's happening? There's nothing that I could do to possibly change everybody else's perception other than just keep working and having that quiet confidence to keep stepping forward. Now, what I do know, and one of the things that's really exciting, is that you're often right when you do that, when you have the quiet confidence. However you're going to be recognized, you're doing the right thing. And as long as you're working, you're putting in the effort every day, you're getting up, you're doing your thing, you're going to bed, and you're constantly doing that. You're working and working and working and working. It will eventually work out. Now, is it going to work out with everybody? Are they going to recognize and sort of see who you are? No, right? You can never ever. There's a lot of people that have already made up their minds about who you are and how the world works, and you can't change them. However, you can touch an awful lot of people and touch their hearts in many different ways by just getting up and doing the thing, like the Rudy story, right? Um, Regardless of whether this person was a good person in real life, but the sort of Disney version of the Rudy story, you get up and you try, you get up and you try, and you get up and you try, and eventually good things happen for you, in whatever ways that they're going to happen. That's it. You have to have faith that you're doing the right thing. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.